Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us on another Saturday with ADOS Kansas City. Today, we will be talking about post-election results, some measures that were passed and how they're going to affect us, as well as um, what steps we need to take as far as Black America and disinformation among the Black American community. So, if you are watching us today, please take a moment and like this video. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and also share this with your family and friends. So let's get started. We have myself, Kara, Chris, Miss Al, and Brian. And the first thing we're going to touch on is Amendment 3. So, if you don't know, 2 years ago, the Clean Missouri um, bill was passed. And what that did was create a position for a nonpartisan map maker to draw up demographic lines in Missouri. Basically, this was to create or protect against any one party having too much political power. Um, Fast forward to this election year, Amendment 3 basically reversed that decision that was made 2 years ago. So we are here today um, discussing how that will affect Black Americans.
Hmm.
Does anyone want to start off? Go ahead, Miss Al.
Amendment, what they're changing, it returns the state to the use of bipartisan commissions appointed by the governor. Like you said, this gives the governor more power. Gerrymandering, of course, now they're gonna change the district lines. It's dealing with our congressional seats, correct? Gives the governor can appoint whomever. Um, I took notes, and it also is going to change certain provisions of Amendment 1 as well. The only thing that I really touched on is the gerrymandering, but it did make other changes. But I didn't go back and verify that information, but I know that the governor is going to appoint people, his appointees, to do certain things, which is going to benefit the Republican Party. That's all I have.
Right. And I think we also need to realize that these changes um, will, in a census here, will affect us for at least the next 10 years, foreseeably more. So well, let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, I, I mean, just from what I've seen and and kind of read about Amendment 3, I mean, it's divisive as hell. And I think for some, I don't know if this was the message across the whole GOP, but I know for some in the GOP, the message going across was that this was just basically taking it back to the redistricting rules that were in place from 2001 to 2011. But this ain't this ain't that at all. And what this basically will do is it's going to let lobbyists and political people draw the maps that will, show who is where, and basically thereby apply, or spread out the power, or the voting power of the areas as they currently are. And to take that even further, if I'm not mistaken, there is a part in there that says, like, even if the political protection maps that they're creating are unconstitutional, a judge can't even throw them out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
Wow.
yeah, so that's a part of this thing, and they just went ahead and approved it.
Mm-hmm.
So that yeah, there yeah, quite a few things in it that were, I mean, the gerrymandering, it was, of course, that's the biggest part to me, and I just thought, on its face, that alone should have been enough to say no. No.
Right.
But then they also threw in the part about, like, the lobbyist gifts changing,
That's it.
and the contribution limits and all that other stuff. But the main thing should have been the gerrymandering,
Yes.
and the effect that
Absolutely.
it can have. I mean, just looking at North Carolina alone, and the mess that they're in. I mean, there's no way,
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason that vote should have been nearly as close as it was, for the general election. If it weren't, but if it weren't for the gerrymandering that had been taking place over the
Mm-hmm.
past 8 years,
Yep.
it wouldn't have been so.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And Miss Al, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was going to comment about it. Chris, he picked it up at the end about the campaign finance and lobbying limits. That's all. Yeah, he mentioned, yeah, I'm just adding on to what Chris said, because there is that provision, as he mentioned. It changes the campaign finance and lobbying limits. Remember, we put a limit on that before, and now we're back, like we're in worse shape again, as Chris said. But you say this is going to affect us for the next 10 years.
At least.
Wow.
And I have an article here from the Columbia Missourian. So I'll read a little bit of it. Okay. So right now, the current redistricting process under Clean Missouri is the state auditor would give a list of applicants for the demographer position to the majority and minority leaders in the Senate for approval. Um, if the if the Senate members can't come to an agreement, the candidate would be picked from among the finalists through a final lottery. And then the demographer chosen to draw the map can't have been an elected official in the 4 years before or after being appointed to the position. So it's basically trying to safeguard from the politicizing of drawing the district lines. Under the under Amendment 3, the governor now appoints uh, nominees from the House and the Senate party members to two bipartisan commissions tasked to draw the maps, which also reflects the process in place prior to Clean Missouri. If the commission's deadlock over a map, the panel of 6 appellate judges must draw the lines. And again, these judges are also appointed by governors. Redistricting plans and maps would be submitted to the Missouri Secretary of State, subject to public hearings. What Clean Missouri did was it stated that districts should be equal in population. They should not marginalize minority communities. The overall map should promote partisan fairness and competitiveness. They should be contiguous, and they should follow political subdivisions, and they should be compact in form. Stop sharing.
Contiguous.
Contiguous?
Yeah, like the contiguous United States,
Ah, thank you.
like the 48 states that are touching each other. That's called, those are the contiguous states, even though we have 50.
It's not an issue in Missouri in practice, the contiguous part, in the sense that, like, even District 5 here in Kansas City is technically contiguous because there's little slivers that don't break up. And in some states, some districts literally have like islands within themselves. Oop. So anyway. Which is just ridiculous. But I want to kind of make another comment about, I haven't followed Missouri politics closely enough for long enough to know about the history of congressional districts. But there was a really interesting tweet from Claire McCaskill like a year ago, maybe, about this issue. Maybe it was even 2 years ago when Clean Missouri first passed. And this relates to the ADOS community, particularly in Kansas City. Well, actually, even in St. Louis, I think, because she basically said, and I say this as someone who does not like Claire McCaskill, really, and think, I mean, I don't think she was progressive enough. She's basically a centrist Democrat.
Agreed.
She made a comment about how part of the issue in Missouri has been Cleaver and Clay protecting, like basically allowing their districts to be gerrymandered in such a way to make them safe for themselves, as opposed to allowing them to become more competitive. Is anybody familiar with that tweet or that argument? Does anybody have any history they can provide for that?
I am not. I have not heard anything like that, but that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
If that is true, I mean, and then I guess even looking at it from that perspective, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go look for it right now, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. I think the tweet was 2 years ago, but
I know. I'm searching now. I'm trying to find it.
the other thing I want to say real quick about Amendment 3 is that it's just it's another example of just the cynical and bad faith politicking by Republicans, particularly in Missouri, but it exists around the country, and just the chicanery with respect to drafting legislation, drafting state constitutional amendments. You like the two most obvious examples are anything that's drafted as supposed to be pro-life or right to work, like pro-work. Like, we all know that right to work is an attempt to subvert the collective bargaining powers of individuals, abilities of individuals in the state. And just about anything that is listed as pro-life, particularly if it's drafted by a conservative member of the legislature, is going to be restrictive and it's going to be pro-birth more than it is actually like pro-life. So that, I mean, as much as anything, that's the thing that bothers me so much about Amendment 3. And I confess that, like, I know friends who fell for it. Like they didn't understand what Amendment 3 was about. They saw the language about lobbying. They didn't realize that it was an attempt to do a runaround of Clean Missouri, and so they thought that they were voting for something that was a positive, a progressive change to the law. you know. So,
I wasn't
anyway,
able. Do you remember like the crux of the tweet exactly, or the tweet?
it was a response to some. It was either a quote tweet or a response in a tweet thread about amendment or Clean Missouri, I think. And it was, I don't remember.
Who was she responding to?
Yeah, I don't remember, but it really made the rounds because she very, I mean, she has been such a mealy-mouthed politician for so many years, and it made the rounds because people were like, wow, Claire McCaskill really, like taking the gloves off. I'm sorry, I'm not at my computer, or else I'd try to find it. But
hey, Brian, I found it. It was from this year.
oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, she says, ask Lacey. I don't know what this is in. Well, someone has posted a picture of the District 1, and they circled a certain area. And the comment they said is, "There we are, how stupid." And her response was, "Ask Lacey Clay. He did it.
Yeah.
We lost a congressional district. That was D, I guess, Democratic. And Lacey and Cleaver got safe districts in the process."
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Yeah, that was June this year.
Wow. I thought, apparently I'm experiencing some real time dilation, but yeah.
No, it's completely understandable.
But I mean, that's a pretty fire tweet from her perspective, because anyway, and then like I said at the outset, like I don't know the history of Missouri congressional districts, unfortunately, well enough to provide any context to it, but.
Oh, okay, I found it. Hold on, let me share screen. Okay, so it's from Tim_N_B7, and there it says, "There we are, how stupid." And there in District 1, there's like this little like semi-island circled off to the side. And then under it, Claire McCaskill said, "Ask Lacey Clay. He did it. We lost a congressional district that was Democratic. And Lacey and Cleaver got safe districts in the process. Their decision."
Yeah, that.
I definitely stand corrected about the non-contiguous part. It's clearly a non-contiguous island in that district.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the picture again. So yeah.
I should say, and now we face, an even worse, I guess, leveling of these measures, due to the Amendment 3. So now we're going to catch more redistricting as a result.
And there was another part of it where they were trying to push for what was it called? One vote, one count. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'm not exactly certain how, and I didn't read up on it, but I know that it said that this measure would make Missouri the first state to not have every vote count.
Oh, it was.
I'm sorry, we're referring to Amendment 3. Is that what we're still talking about? Or is this another campaign, one vote, one count?
Well, I was talking about Amendment 3 and its effect on
Okay, gotcha.
voters and their ability to be counted. Because
Okay.
basically what the redistricting can do, or what they're saying is that it has the potential of doing, is reducing the effectiveness of everyone's individual vote.
Got you.
Okay. I found it. It was an NPR article. I'll put it in the chat. A national fight over who is counted in voting districts. What said that now? So I'll just read a little bit of it. All right, share screen. Okay, so I'll just read this part. According to an analysis by the Brennan Center for Justice, redistricting based on the numbers of adult citizens could siphon away political representation from two major metropolitan areas in Missouri, Greater Kansas City and the suburbs of St. Louis. The change could also come with stark racial disparities, the Brennan Center report says, potentially leaving out more than half of Asian and Latino residents in Missouri and more than a quarter of Black residents, while excluding only 21% of the state's white population. It remains an open question whether it is legal to draw voting districts based on the number of eligible voters or another group other than all the residents. And then it says the U.S. Supreme Court left it unresolved in its 2016 ruling for the Texas redistricting case of Evanwell versus Abbott. Let's stop share. So in our neighborhoods, in ADOS neighborhoods, we already know the disparities we face.
Mhm.
They would be even more so if our children weren't counted because they're not a voting age.
Mhm.
So really it seems like this Amendment 3 was is going to affect us by having neighborhoods which are already underfunded become even more so.
Mhm.
Does anyone have any thoughts?
I'm sorry, what was the question? I was looking at the Amendment 3 thing on Wikipedia. What were you at? What was the question?
Oh, thoughts on how Amendment 3 will affect Black Americans in having underfunded neighborhoods become even more underfunded based on the redistricting guidelines of only counting eligible voters instead of the whole district.
Well, yeah. I mean, it. So like I was kind of alluding. I mean, it takes away our power. It reduces. So I guess I shouldn't have said removes our power. But it significantly reduces the individual power of every individual who's within that district. It would be the equivalent of the 3/5 compromise.
Yep.
I mean, that's, and so how ironic that we're in Missouri where it's happening. but this is the equivalent of the Three-Fifths Compromise, where it's like, yeah, let's throw a bunch of them in there, you know, to garner the same voting potential or the same voting block or the same voting power that this much smaller group over here, or this much smaller area over here, but redistricted in such a way has. You know, so to me that's apparent, that I mean, when you don't count everyone, of course you're not getting the full picture. And I mean, that's, to me, that's the bottom line to it.
Go ahead, Ms. L.
My comment stems from, I agree with everything Chris says, but remember, but what about the COVID-19 exponential factor? You know, that displays all the inequalities, you know, and racial disparities going back 401 years. And right now, we don't know how Black America is going to recover economically. And then on top of this, like you said, the underfundings, could we reach that 2053 prediction here in Missouri a lot quicker than the rest of the country, meaning we're not going to recover. If they're going to do this is a devastating effect. This is like that atomic bomb, basically. Can we afford any more cuts? I guess that's what I'm saying. We've already, to add on to what Kiara is saying, but I just don't think we are not really considered the economic impact. We're already strapped for cash. So what's going to happen to us now? I'm just saying it's more dismal than what we think, the effects of this. We're in trouble more than what we think. That's what I'm thinking.
I'll do another quick share. So what Ms. Al is talking about is this article here. It's from Black Enterprise, and it's the title is African American Wealth May Fall to Zero by 2053. So if you want to read it, there it is. I'll stop share. So, and that data is based on our sustained lack of wealth, the fact that the wealth we have has been systemically stolen. Our job growth, our income levels are not as high as the rest of the countries, and all of that will culminate in our steady decrease of wealth, making it zero by 2053. And what economists are now trying to determine is if that projected date hasn't been expedited by the COVID pandemic that we're experiencing right now. And this is for Black Americans. And we've talked about how how people are recovering in this economy, but Black Americans were already projected to be wealthless by 2053 have perhaps had that date coming on us now. Like I would say yes. Like many of us during this pandemic have already become wealthless. You know, we those who didn't have access or for whatever reason didn't qualify for unemployment, they may not have gotten their stimulus yet, and they were laid off they are essentially now wealthless. They have no job, no money. We there have been like a few articles out about it, and I'll put those in the newsletter this week. But about, you know, the rate of job growth right now, um, how people are handling COVID as far as quarantined, and whether or not they're able to, and a few others as well. But ultimately, we don't have set data yet on how this on how COVID has been affecting Black Americans. We just have our individual experiences. But based on that, I would say that we are definitely headed towards being wealthless, and it's going to happen a lot sooner than 2053.
I would imagine that in addition, well, that's been pushed forward in addition to um, the supposed that time when they say that white people will become a minority thing or whatever. I think that if that's supposed to be happening, because that was what 2042. Seems like that's going to be moved forward. That's been accelerated also. And that's what I think we've been seeing as a result of the leadership we've been currently been under. And yeah, and I think that's that's to me it makes perfect sense, and that's why I kind of will go back to what I was saying before about like how I was okay, either candidate who won, and I know this we weren't quite talking about this, but I just kind of want to say this, but with either candidate, whether it would be Trump or Biden, I mean I would be fine either way, but I would have been fine with Trump winning, not because I wanted him to be there, but because I knew it would lead to the further acceleration of a lot of things falling apart because he doesn't know how to hold things together. So, and that's what we're seeing. And so I think that poor leadership is what is playing a key role to what we're seeing as far as the accelerated rates for some of the things that you're talking about, Kiara.
Along that lines, Chris, are you happy that Parson won?
You said Parson?
Yeah, I mean, because it's the same rationale, like because he's a nightmare and he just
but see, I kind of look at that from like that's more like middle down collapse versus top down collapse. The top down collapse from the president would be a completely different play than from the state perspective.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so while I mean, so no, no, I'm not happy with Parsons. I mean, especially with what we're seeing, with regard to the Third Amendment and the three more. So I saw that the Third Amendment was written by a Republican. No shock there, but it also is going to add four more members to the what is that the sectioning or districting committee or whatever. More than likely, those are going to be Republicans. So Republican governor, Republican who writes the amendment, more Republicans added to the committee that already wants to disenfranchise the Democratic vote. I mean, no. So no, I'm not happy with the Parsons win, especially in light of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
You're out, Camille. I can't hear you.
Yes, in Kansas City and Columbia and St. Louis, we're kind of like islands of blue among the sea of red. But even in that, and especially in St. Louis right now, what you have is citizens are pushing towards more progressive ideals from their politicians, and if they're not willing to deliver those, then they're not getting those votes needed to win. And such is the case with Galloway. She just, I mean, her campaigns just weren't strong enough to appeal to progressives in our liberal states, or sorry, liberal cities.
Say what?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think I said it in previous conversations, but it's such a disappointment because if there was ever a time that, a buffoon Republican incumbent was vulnerable to defeat, it would have been this time. And she seemed like a very competent state auditor, but as a politician that requires, particularly running for the highest executive position in the state, like you got to have more personal charisma. You got to have better ideas. You got to, you can't just say, like, she pulled a Hillary Clinton on Twitter, like, I think the day before the election, and was like, wow, basically saying, like, tomorrow I'll be elected the first female governor of Missouri. I'm like, no, you aren't. It's not even gonna be close. And what difference does it make if you were the first woman? Like, you're just, sorry, I'm just going on a rant at this point.
No, you're good. I mean, that's why we're here. We're sharing our opinions.
Yeah. Hey, real quick on the I appreciate this conversation so much, because I didn't realize I wasn't aware of the distinction of the all registered voters or only registered voters counted for districting and redistricting. Was not aware of that, which is all the more insidious. I mean, God, that is essentially racism by age. Rural America, the birth rates in rural America are way down. There's no, very far fewer young people below the voting age in rural America than there are in cities, of course. I mean, it's just racism in a different name, like in a different cloak.
Yeah, I mean, that's America.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what one of the policies of America. Try to find a way of being exclusion, and when the jig is up, rebrand it as something else.
I mean, the Lee Atwater. I was just
about to go there. I was just about to go there. I was going to say like let's look at the GOP, for example. And I mean, they've been playing a game of racist whack-a-mole since since the Southern Switch, and actually even before that, because basically what they're doing is just saying, okay, we've got some people who got some very extreme ideas over here. We're trying to tamp them down and try to make them sound political, or try to make them sound acceptable, palatable in some sort of way. But what's actually what they're actually doing is just hiding somebody's racist vitriol and trying to pass it off as policy. And what that ends up doing is being the norm, or the law, the going concern, I should say, and it's just extenuated to an extent that, as the years go on, people will say, wait, hold on, wait, this guy, hey, this is sounding kind of extreme. Okay, well, it's kind of extreme. That's right. I'm sorry. Let's rebrand. All right, now we're Dixiecrats. Now we're no longer Democrats, we're Dixiecrats. Now we're no longer Democrats, we're Republicans. Now we're no longer Republicans. What are we going to be next? I mean, so like that's just kind of what it's been. Like, there's always been some kind of like you're trying to pin them down. As soon as you think you got them cornered, they slip out and find another way to go be racist in another corner somewhere else.
Well, to that, I mean, we should also realize that uh, the answer to that can't be politicians who are running on um, but trying to masquerade class-based issues as racial justice. So,
I agree.
you know, we kind of see that in Cori Bush a little bit. You know, she's taken a lot of issues such as criminal justice,
Man, I don't
masquerading
know a
that as
whole
a
lot
racial
about.
justice issue.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say I don't know a whole lot about Cori Bush. Can you, Miss, you or Miss Aldi, can y'all kind of like give a like the 50 cent
Well,
breakdown
for
on her?
me, with Cori Bush, she came out of the Mike Brown incident, okay?
Right.
But I thought, you know, okay, before the ADOS education, I thought she was the one. But once this ADOS education in politics, I went and reread everything she said. I'm like, oh, yeah, she's gonna close the wealth gap through employment. So they're taking ADOS talking points and interjecting things that don't match. We know you can't close the wealth gap with employment, but that's one of the things she is gonna do. So just that it's like what she said is foolish, but only to the trained eye. You know what I mean? Like you said, that whack them over the head, you know, and that's what she's doing after studying under ADOS and finding out what's really going on. Cause I was enamored with Obama. You know what I mean? I was in love with Obama, and it broke my heart to realize, you know what I mean? He whacked us over the head so good. You know what I mean? I didn't see it coming. So with Cori Bush, after this ADOS education, she's just talking loud, but we're gonna see. She claims she's a progressive for justice, but she's mincing words and ideals, and it's coming out as deceit for me right now. So we shall see. You know what I mean? Assuming she came out from Ferguson, but what got me, her tweets was BIPOC and POC. And I literally tweeted her a picture of her with the Ferguson protesters, POC and BIPOC where? These people are using ADOS political capital, our struggle, getting elected, and don't do anything for us. You know what I mean? And that's what we're looking at, an incompetent Black congressional Congress that has put their personal gain ahead of the gain for the Black community. And we don't need no more of that. And that's all I'm gonna say. I can't be deceived anymore. So we shall see, but right now she's failing. Says she hasn't even taken office because she's so progressive. She's agreeing with the PAC, the progressive PAC, and you already know.
I don't think she's that progressive though. I don't think she's
see it either. That's just another name for get what I can. So
Yeah,
I think
I was sorry. Go ahead.
I think she alluded to the idea of her being progressive, which is how she got elected. But now she's kind of giving us the same rhetoric, the same status quo as the rest of the Democratic Party.
So she bought in. She got bought.
It seems that way. I mean, she's had a past history of speaking quite strongly in favor of reparations to Black Americans.
And now
So,
she has the
so
ability
if
to.
yeah, so if Black Americans were looking for that in a politician and they saw her, showing support of that, then of course they were like, yes, we're going to vote for you. So I think, you know, in Black American politics, what has been happening is that, we have people who are just telling us to, just get out there and vote. We got to get this person out. We have to vote for this. But in Cori Bush, we actually had someone who seemingly, supposedly, had a platform that would have directly benefited us. So I think part of that is how she got elected. But now it's like she's turned the tables on us. Now she's speaking out on criminal justice and immigration and
These aren't things that
minimum
she.
wage, which these are all issues that are important and need to be addressed, but they can't be addressed as issues for the Black American community because those are issues that affect everybody.
Yeah.
We needed legislation agendas for us, just for us.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and that was like the only thing I really knew about her. I knew that she was, she emerged from the Ferguson protest. She had, I guess she was a pastor or married to a pastor or something like that. And but and
I think she said
late.
she was a youth pastor. Don't
Okay.
Some type of pastor. I'm not sure if it's youth pastor, but some type.
Okay. Okay. And then there was the message that she was somehow being labeled as a progressive when at the same time she was speaking for these very vast pro police stances, so that's why I was like, how is she a progressive? What is like where's a progressive? Is it because she's Black? Is that what it is that what it is? Progressive now is the new urban. Which urban always meant Black. So, like, is that what this is now? Is that what we're saying? So I don't know, but yeah, I'm I find it funny that when it comes to politics and a lot of politics for Black people in a lot of senses, it seems that the person who is put in front of us a lot of times, they're learning the language, they're learning what the talking points are, they parrot them back to us as if they're in support. Then they forget that as soon as they learned it, once they get in office. And I think ADOS is of the mindset more so than just your normal Black Democrat. Not that I'm saying all Black people are Democrats, but you get the point. But I think ADOS has more so of the mindset of, we've been here already. Let's start thinking more progressive. Let's start actually seeing what's going to happen beyond today. Because a lot of times Democrats, the fight for the Democratic Party or Democratic seat for something generally comes out like, we got to hurry up. We're running. We need to run. Let's run that way. Hurry up. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. We need to run. Let's go. And there's always something of, we're running away from something. They never let you know what you're running toward. So we're running away from Trump. What are we running toward in Biden? Seriously? They're in the kitchen.
I think we also, I mean, you posed a very good question. In what should we consider progressive? And I think, and this isn't just for Black Americans, but these are some policies that will affect us. but they're not just for us. These, I'm at the list. I think increasing or creating a national minimum wage is progress. Is progress. I think universal health care and universal basic income is progress. I think defunding the police is progress. I think it needs to be better defined. But the idea of decreasing the funding of police departments and using those funds to towards better city social programs is progress. And specifically for Black Americans, ADOS reparations is progress. So these are the so if you're saying you're progressive, these are the platforms that you stand on. If you're trying to get Black Americans, we are coming to the time where you need to sorry show support for ADOS reparations. That is now how you get the Black vote.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Miss Al.
My comment goes back to the 94 crime bill. Didn't that bill take money from the Black community and gave it to the police? That's how they were able to, what is that? Military arise. Is that the correct? Am I pronouncing it right? Remember, they took,
Militarized, yes.
Yes,
yes. So we're going
But
back to
yeah,
that 94 crime bill and the impact that it has.
yeah, essentially that is exactly what they did. They
Yeah,
defunded Black
yeah,
American communities and gave that money to the police. So now we're just
yes.
saying, yeah, we need
give
we
the
need
money
some money
back.
back.
Right, exactly. So basically defunding is basically back to this law that needs to be
Mhm.
reversed. You know what I mean? That's the
Can we talk?
comment.
Yeah. Can we talk also? Speaking of progressive, what's the how ADOS has changed the political landscape in how politicians run and how they govern their cities and how, I mean, just across the board in general, how citizens are moving towards demanding more progressive political agendas. Um, Miss Al, I hope you'll speak more on this than me because you're in St. Louis, but Mayor Lyda Cruzan just announced that she won't be running next year. On an article stated that it was due to issues in St. Louis right now with activists demanding the defunding of police and issues with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I mean, she was basically saying that, or the article was saying that it's basically too much for her and she's not coming back. Now, we were talking about this in our Twitter chat, and I said I thought that was great because that's what we need. We need um, politicians who are holding on to times of old to realize that,
These ain't them times.
yeah, these are not those times anymore. We're moving towards more progressive times, and we need more progressive politicians. And if you're not going to be that, then yes, absolutely resign, quit, let other progressives step into those spaces.
I need to go back and pull the article, but what happened, how she got in is a remarkable tale in its own. We had, as far as in the mayor's ways, Tashira Jones, we had a couple alder people, assembly people running. So we had 6 different Blacks running. And a lot of the Blacks, like Boyd, ran just to take the Black vote from Tashira Jones. She's been our treasurer for years, and the treasurer's office has been pretty good. They've been trying to get a hold of those funds that, the parking and meters, from Tashara Jones. She's over the treasurer's office. And so we had a lot of blacks ran that split the black vote, and that's how Cruising got in. And now she's saying these, the issues why she's not running, but she didn't even mention about our police department and even the fire department have two separate, what do you call those? Fraternal, or what do you call who always defend the police?
Unions, police unions.
Union.
Yes.
And the Fraternal Order of Police.
Yes,
In
yes.
Missouri, it's
It was a lot more issues,
Order
but
of
she won by
Police.
default because they split the black vote in St. Louis City. They tried to undermine Tashara Jones, basically. That's what I'm saying, to make a long story short. So it is good that she's not running. So. Plus, she gave out a lot of people's addresses doing that.
Yeah.
I heard she was
Yeah, that was awful.
she was
Yeah, that
doxing
was
them
awful.
for
Yeah.
they proposed city budgets that included defunding the police, and she read off their personal names and addresses as she in a city budget meeting, I believe.
Yeah, most of the time I sit in on those meetings, but I haven't here lately. Once I saw the meeting when she gave out the address, I was on the Zoom, but I haven't watched it since then. I was just so appalled by, that's straight out the racist handbook. You know what I mean? So I haven't watched since.
That's what eventually led to the couple whose names I forget that brandished their guns.
Yeah,
I forgot their names.
They were. I don't remember their names.
It was the protesting her behavior, Cruising's behavior. Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kiara, I was going to say, to answer your question, or another answer to your question, is what we were talking about in the pregame. The fact that honeymoon periods are just not going to exist anymore, at least not for the foreseeable future. Like, people don't, and I think how y'all feel about Cori Bush is a perfect example of it. It's like, you don't get you don't get an opportunity to bask in the victory. Like, the work starts now. And I mean, in Cori Bush's case, like, she hadn't even been sworn in yet. And it's like, listen, you can't, like, everybody's happy for you, but taking pictures with Jamal Bowman and the squad and whatnot is great, but you can't for a minute forget who brought you. You got to dance with who brought you.
Yeah, I mean, the first press coverage of her was about her Breonna Taylor mask.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, is this what you're coming into Congress with? Why? Oh, in her needing clothes.
Yeah.
So
which in and of itself isn't.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, in and of itself is not. I mean, those are valid. Of course, those are valid issues, but
she is a
for
pastor.
her.
Pastors need clothes.
Yeah, she took pictures. Yeah, I thought they were publicity stunts. Like,
yeah,
she took a picture.
That's what I was trying to say. They're all kind of
Yeah, she took a picture that election night with Mike Brown Sr., but then she's tweeting BIPOC. Mm-hmm. and the picture at the Goodwill. You know what I mean? I think it kind of mocked a lot of her constituents. That's just me.
Yeah, go on Twitter. That's it.
So I'll share this quote from the article I just put in the chat.
That's okay.
There you go.
Okay. So here it says, oh, sorry, this is a St. Louis Post Dispatch from November 19th at 2 p.m. And SLU Professor Ken Warren, and this is in the article, it says, the city of St. Louis is almost ungovernable. The factionalism in St. Louis is out of control.
Wow.
Structurally,
Exactly.
alderman is a joke. It's just a fragmented
Exactly.
city with everyone hanging on to their fiefdoms. By
Mm.
J. Parker.
Fiefdom.
My response, fiefdom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
fiefdom.
Fiefdom. Okay.
Yeah.
My response to that is I don't think St. Louis is ungovernable. I think they need progressive governing.
Exactly.
But I'm in Kansas City, so I'll let you speak more to that. I kind of wanted to ask you more about, is it Tashira Jones?
Tashira, yes. Her
Tashira, because
father.
you seem to have spoken in favor of her. I think I read, and that she was actually more along the lines of what citizens in St. Louis are looking for. So what do you think of her?
Yes. 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 But again, so far, tentatively speaking, her father was a controller of St. Louis, Vervis Jones. So she's not new to the political arena, but it's, thinking back, if she's a progressive or not, that I'm not sure. You have to realize this is a lot of my opinion pre-ADOS was a fallacy of composition, because that goes back to, is a lie still a lie if it's is the truth still the truth if it's based off a lie? So I don't know enough at this point to say, I stood behind Obama, and again, I've been so disillusioned. As of now, I'm gonna have to go back and reread, but as far as she's the best progressive candidate we have, but how do you define a progressive? And that's the question.
Yeah, I think you made a good point that kind of touches on the last topic we had scheduled for today, and that is the I guess the re-education Black Americans need. Um, for so many years and decades, we've believed so much misinformation and disinformation that we just plain and simple need to let go of. Um, just off the top of my head, my main issues are our beliefs as to our place in the Democratic Party. We need to let go of that. I also think we need to let go of what we consider ourselves to be, as far as income versus wealth, as far as being a middle class. And we also need to and those are just two things off the top of my head. I can't remember the third right now. But so I think let's talk about that, Miss Al. You kind of touched on uh misinformation that you need to go back and read on. And I've kind of also said that a lot of my beliefs are based off of, what I've known thus far, and how ADOS is changing those as well. But overall, what are some other things that we as Black Americans just plain and simple need to realize that for us it's not true, and we just need to let go of those beliefs in order to move forward with our place in America, with the reparations, etc.
One thing I'll say that we need to have, well, two things I'll say. And hey, maybe I just got an old soul, but I come from a different era where I think we we should make sure that we don't associate ourselves solely with a color and just keep calling ourselves blacks. I think we should always call ourselves black people because we should never lose our peoplehood for the sake of a color. So I think that to me is important because messaging is important. Messaging matters. So in calling ourselves the blacks or blacks, we sound like the friggin' New Zealand rugby team instead of what we are, which is the black people being, black people of America. But another thing that we also need is an understanding of freedom versus security.
Hold on. I'm gonna stop you there. Let's focus on that first point first.
Okay.
The part about and identifying as black, because I think we need to realize that racism
Well,
is
I mean, divine identified as black people.
yeah.
Like stop saying we're blacks. I don't get that. Like we're not blacks. We're black people.
Yeah.
That's the
yeah.
distinction I'm drawing. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I was just gonna say this might be like a little bit off, but I was gonna say that structural racism isn't just defined by skin color. When it comes to
Talk about
Black Americans, we think like, oh, for so long we've seen, all black people as kinfolk, and I think now we need to realize that no, there's a caste system in America,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
Black Americans are at the bottom. So it's not skin color that holds us back; it's our lineage.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely roll with that. And
I'm sorry. I felt that loud and clear from that Obama's response to Trump's appeal to Black people, where he alluded to we like the bling and the jewelry, that old racist response. I felt it exactly what you guys just said. What they say, all Black folks ain't kin folks.
skin
That
folk
was
ain't
so
kin folk.
racist. That was so racist, and I've never really thought so low of another Black man than I did Barack Obama when I saw that. That was just, and then you go back and you look at his other speeches that he's made, condemning, like he did, what was it, a commencement exercise in Morehouse. In that parental tone, you have no excuse why you are not going to be successful. And we already know the myth of education, but I just think that Obama, looking back, I think he mocked us. Not only did he mocked our culture, we took it in good faith, but I don't think it was in good faith at all. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's it, Obama's a racist, and that's what I got.
I wouldn't go as far as saying he's a racist, but I will say he's an elitist, and that in that elitism he misses marks. He misses marks often, especially when talking to Black people. And I think he thinks because he's accepted from at the door that just means he has carte blanche.
Yes.
And I think as time progresses, we'll realize that freedom to just say whatever and do whatever, especially around Black folks, is going to slowly start to slowly start to be like, oh, what you gonna say? Are you coming to the congregation, talk to the people?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, talk to the parishioners, cool.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say though?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's honestly where it's gonna end up going for Obama and people of his ilk who are also in that in that vein. But to kind of keep going on what we were talking about, to go back to Kiara's question, like the other thing I think we need to keep in mind is that, like I said, we don't have we need to understand the difference between, and it actually just kind of speaks to that freedom and security, or freedom and protection, because America will tell you you're free. America will tell you you have the ability to do, be, say, and whatever, all of that. You have that freedom. But your skin tone, for Black people, will tell you and dictate otherwise.
Right.
And we sometimes, and a lot of times, especially when I'm talking to kids and young adults, they talk and act sometimes in a sense that kind of just makes it seem like they think they have the exact same freedoms as everybody else. We don't live in that era anymore, man. All my friends say nigga. My white friends say nigga. My Black friends say nigga. Everybody says nigga. It's cool. Is it? So like I think we need to understand, and I say this a lot. We don't have any agency, advocacy, or protection. We don't have. It was another AI always called the AAA, but I can't remember. But basically, we don't have security. We don't have, like our existence here in America is synonymous with the character who's pushed into a corner. Like that's where we start there. That's where we are. We can't say, okay, well, you pushed us to so far, and now we're gonna go back to where? Now we're gonna what? Like we don't have that. So we start off with our backs against the walls.
Right. And I agree with you, but that's my point on calling Obama a racist, because when it comes to class and our argument, even with class, even if we're in the upper class, the elite class, we still can't get around our Blackness, because Michael Jordan's son
Our
or
lineage.
grandson could get snatched out the court, shot and killed by police. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's why I considered it. Obama is a constitutional lawyer, Harvard academic, but that's why I said it was downright racist, because class does not erase our Blackness. And we are, even with money, even the entertainers know. Like, it was a football player, showed how the police followed him home and they knew what team he played for, told his wife, stay in the house. We are still being terrorized. An elite can get terrorized just as bad or as even worse as somebody at the bottom, not just regular citizens. So that's why I just went out and said it was racist. That's all I had.
Can I jump in on the Obama conversation real quick?
If you want.
I think it's really important to recognize that he's really a narcissist also. And I know that term gets thrown around a lot, but it's important with respect to also the conversation about Cori Bush. And I think, Ms. Albonia, your point just now about, football players who are ostensibly, at least financially elite, but can be targeted too. Like, Obama's a narcissist in the sense that a narcissist requires the attention of other people as a way of defining their own identity, right? It's not just about overly loving oneself. That is a component of it, but it depends so much on the approval of other people. And Obama's a narcissist for elites. Like, he wants the approval of other elites. And I think that's part of the concern about Cori Bush right now, is that she seems to be really looking to be part of the club already, as opposed to going in and just saying, I don't care what anybody thinks. This is why I'm here. This is what my people want. This is where I'm from, and I'm going to roll that way. And I think I think that's such an important way of like thinking about Obama. He's wildly disappointing, and he's a narcissist, and he's an elitist. And I mean, to the point about Cori Bush, like, you have to remain true to who you are, and that if you have those tendencies to be narcissistic, to need the affections of certain groups of people, then you're compromised in that way. You know, I think about like Marshawn Lynch, like, you know, financially elite, but shows up at the Super Bowl and is like, I'm only here because I have to be here. Like that man is true to what he believes, you know, for better or worse. I can't think of a great political analogy, you know, in a politician, but anyway, that's it. That's all I want to say at this point. Maybe Bernie, I guess.
Perhaps
No.
because there are none.
Yeah.
Even in Bernie Sanders, I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah, I'm about to say Bernie voted for the crime bill.
yeah, he really dropped the ball with the Black American politics. So
Yeah.
even in
Hey.
his ideals.
I'll say to the Obama thing though, to that narcissism, like that's really unfortunate, because that basically just makes him the bag of ants to the elites.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
He's the magic Negro that comes in and says, "Oh, y'all want me to? Hey, watch this. I'm gonna go do something that y'all can't do. Watch me do a backspin and go talk to these black folks real quick.
Yeah.
Bam. I'm gonna go in and go talk to them, go say something to them real fast, and make them dance, scream, shout, and holler. They love me, boy. Watch this. You can't do this." So he'll go and do that. Go do his Obama dance. Get some people to shout, scream, and holler. Nothing will happen. And you know,
Kamala's the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she didn't have the same juice.
She did quite a bit of dancing herself. And another thing I wanted to point out with Obama's ideals is that his father is Kenyan, and his mother is white, and his grandmother and his grandparents are white, and that's who he grew up with. You know, I think there was in Style did an article about his book. So in that there's a quote saying that Obama's parents grew. I'm kind of like paraphrasing here, but essentially Obama's grandparents got tired of Midwestern Southern life, and they moved to Hawaii in 1960. And then it further says that, you know, they didn't have to deal with all the riots that were happening with the civil rights movement. So that in and of itself really stood out to me, because it was kind of signaling that he was saying that y'all's story isn't my story.
Yeah, I didn't even want any parts of it, basically.
Yeah, he was saying I didn't have like that like y'all Negroes had a life that didn't have anything to do with me.
That's y'all thing. Yeah,
That's not me. My grandparents grew up on the beaches of Waikiki.
Right.
So I think in this, you really have to pick up on why he's writing what he's writing, why he says what he says, why he does what he does, because he's constantly telling us that he is not us.
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time as he's in Flint, Michigan, you know, throwing free shots and singing Negro national anthems and speaking at our commencement exercises, telling us we need to work harder. He's saying, my story is not your story. I am here. I think you are down there. And I think we really need to acknowledge that. We really have to accept that just because a person appears to us as Black does not mean that they share the same ideals as we do. We have to let go of that myth. We can't afford to let any more Black politicians come into our spaces just because they're Black. We can't just say, "Oh, I'm gonna vote for you because you're Black." We can't afford to say that anymore. And that's another myth. That's another truth that we're gonna have to change. Like we can't afford to just vote for people just because they're Black anymore.
And we have to do the same for our celebrities who we decide who are out here, um, you know, capping for these folks. Uh, 50 Cent basically he came out and said this. He was in support of Trump. The tax bill that Biden was going to put out was going to hit him the hardest, and he didn't want to get it. He didn't want to get hit. But he basically said that. Now I don't know how true this is, but he said the Trump administration was giving him money to do that. They were paying him for the endorsement. So again, these are,
I bet it's true for
you,
sure.
I mean, that's what he said on the Breakfast Club. He said it was anywhere upward. It was anywhere between 500,000 and a million. So, you know, just to get his support. So it's just like, look. So what credence is there, in any of the support that we put toward these people when we know that they can be bought? Like that's why I say, and that's why I've said, Malcolm X said, celebrities can't be leaders, and I'm a huge supporter of that. And I think the next statement should have been, this is my own opinion, but that because we know what they've done for money, because we know we already see what they'll do for money. So if you'll do that for money, okay, cool, got it. We got you. You have a price. We understand that. Cool. We not coming with money. We coming with people. What you got for that? Now if they're now if they use their platform to bring attention to the people, then hey, that's what you need to be doing. But to instead try to get the people who are already in support of you to follow in a direction that only benefits you. Come on, man. That's why so we have to use that same level of discernment for our politicians, for as well for our celebrities.
I agree with that. And also, just to be clear, any type of I think also we're being misled because we have no idea when it comes to celebrities or any other type of an influencer, you know, we have no idea whether what they're saying is of their own volition or if it's they've been paid to say it. I think I mean technically they're supposed to disclose whether or not their post is from an advertisement. Like they're just supposed to say that so that we know, oh, okay, you're being paid to say this. But they don't.
Mm.
So we have no idea how to discern between what they believe and what they're told to say. So in that, I think also, yeah, celebrities cannot be political leaders because they'll say anything if the paycheck's high enough.
Yeah, and I mean they can't even be community leaders unless they're of the coming from the community. I mean, not just don't come and make a guest star and just be like, well, I was on that episode 2 of That's My Mama, so I'm gonna come be around the people. They support me, and now because of that, I'm gonna go ahead and uh, uh, uh you know uh, get all these folks to now go and vote for Joe Biden. Like, wait, what? No. We before any of that, we need to be like, wait, all right, cool, understand, yeah, we understand, loved you in that episode. Can I get your autograph? However, comma space, can you lay out for us why we should vote for Joe Biden? Can you lay out for us what his plan is? We're not just gonna sit there and sing and dancing because and be caught up in the pomp and circumstance that comes with celebrity anymore. We're just not going to do that, you know. And to me, I think that's one of the huge components of ADOS. You know, I think that's one of the best things about us, in that we don't just fall for the okie doke and sit there and say, all right, oh man, you heard his last album? Hey, yeah. Hey, so we voting for Trump then, right? Yeah, he said Trump. I get, hey, but that album was pumping. We're not gonna do that anymore. So we're gonna do things that actually make sense. Instead of just going with the flow, or going with whatever they say is the status quo.
I think and it's 11:30, so we're gonna start preparing to wrap up. But I think another myth we need to let go of is that we can figure it out by ourselves. Bootstrapism, as they call it, or do-for-selfism. That we can just start our own business and we'll be okay. We need to let go of that myth.
Yeah, I agree.
At least for until we get reparations, I'll say we need to let go of the myth that we don't need the government to address reparations, because we do.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I like to that end, I would hear people in community groups and meetings I've been to where they'd say things like, we should just be our own, be amongst our own and support our own, and then we'll just get by. And I'm like, we don't control industry, so we'll always still need we'll always still have to go outside of the community to get things. How many of y'all are farmers? Like let's be real. So to that end, I never felt that those sorts of plans, or let's just be off on our own and leave us by ourselves when we still don't have any protection or anything like that. I didn't think that any of those measures made sense to me. But I do feel like what we need is to have some sort of like basic get to that point of basic understanding, because I know that what is it, Darity was talking about how HR 40 is flawed, and how, the changes that it needs to be made, but so we need to get to that real understanding where the government can make real steps towards actual reparations, because everything else to me feels like they're just playing hey look, we're doing our due diligence, we tried, look, we looked into it, we did that, check this out, but we need to get to that point where there's a real understanding of what is and what is owed, and what needs to be done. Go ahead, Ms. Al. I'm sorry, I was talking too long.
No, I just want to tie in and reiterate, get on what you just said, and I agree. We got to stop saying we can figure it out, and because we are self-deceived. As a people, we deceive ourselves. I lost a lot of quote unquote friends talking about the wealth gap. And the first thing they want to say, I have wealth. You know what I mean? They shut down. When you start telling them about the wealth gap, they start telling you, I don't need a handout. And then you explain to them, it's a debt that's owed. Then you have to hear, you're supposed to work for everything you get. And we just so self-deceived. And then something about you said, it looks like ADOS, and we saw this with that Amendment 3. We have to be guardians of the information. I think one of our jobs, we got to get all this out here. If you know, we're fairly new, so we know, I guess going forward, we got to make sure that people are aware what these amendments truly mean and how it will affect us. You know what I mean? Because we're knocked out of the political process. We don't ask questions and we believe everything we hear. So I think that's first things first. We got to get the information out there. We have to educate our people. You know, just imagine 3 months ago, I was a dumb doofus too. You know what I mean? Anything they say, yeah, that sounds right. And it was a lie. You know what I mean? So it was a fault in my understanding through the misinformation and the wrong information.
I think we have to move into the space of holding ourselves to top priority. Whenever, when it comes to the next election, we need to ask, okay, this this politician is running, this judge is up for re-election, this measure is on the ballot. How is it going to affect ADOS? And not how is it going to affect the city at whole, or even how it's going to affect a neighborhood at whole. If we're in a mixed, diverse neighborhood, we need to be asking ourselves, okay, how is this going to affect my people? And then we need to vote according to that.
Mm-hmm.
Come to mind that student loan, about student loan forgiveness. What they say, that's only going to affect I know you know the numbers, 20% of us have student loan debt.
If that, I think it's somewhere between only 17 to
Okay.
20% of Black Americans have a degree.
Mm.
Yeah,
Wow.
so like
I
that,
believe.
yeah. Yeah, so with that being said, of course I want that debt forgiven, but what about how is that good? It doesn't affect 80% of my people,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
so that is
also,
not
yeah.
reparations,
No, it's not.
Oh
And
no,
also,
not at
let's
all.
be clear, the legislation is that they're trying to grant $50,000 worth of student debt forgiveness towards anyone who makes $250,000 or less. A person who is making $200,000 a year does not need student debt forgiveness. So even in these policies, if they're going to be implemented, they need to be targeted towards the low income citizens that need them.
Well,
Someone,
you said or less though, so that's anything under 250,000.
yeah, any income
Well,
under 250, you can be making 240,000 and qualify.
well, I
You
mean,
know,
but you
so
could also be making 13,000 to qualify. So,
true. So
it doesn't
so
exclude
basically,
anybody. It just casts a really big net.
yeah. What I'm saying is they need to cast a smaller net.
you're like from $50,000 on
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
But I mean, now that's
This
I'll
is just,
say
and it's
now.
just a class-based
Now,
issue. It's not a racial issue. It's class-based. But I'm saying
Yes.
if they're gonna implement these class-based issues, they need to be super targeted to only affect the people that need them.
well, I mean, just because somebody makes 250,000 doesn't mean that they don't have debt and they don't have, you know, student loans and all of that. And because they may have a different way of living. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying it's necessarily justified. I mean, I know me from my perspective, having never made 250,000, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to manage, some debt and get
Yeah,
things
that's what
taken
I'm
care of
saying.
rather
If
quickly.
you're,
But
yeah,
I'm just saying, if all things are equal, maybe their cost of living is different, you know. So I wouldn't want to just say like, because then it almost makes it sound like you're saying that all Black people are poor.
No,
So,
that's what I was saying earlier.
mhm,
Like student debt forgiveness isn't a racial issue; it's a class-based issue.
right.
It's being touted as an issue, like something that's going to benefit Black Americans, but it's really going to benefit everybody.
Yeah,
Uh,
right, right.
it's not just a Black issue. It's
Sure.
it's an everybody issue. But if they're going to make it an everybody issue, then they need to cast a smaller net. I mean,
Mm,
it's just my opinion that if you're making 200 and anything, I say honestly, I think it's like anything above um 100,000, and then you'll get into where you're living. But certainly if you're making more than $200,000,
I mean,
$250,000, it doesn't matter where you live in this country, you're upper middle class.
but here's the thing though. And the reason I'm kind of pausing on that and kind of pulling back is just because let's say that you're making 250,000. You're the first one in your family making 250,000. You got a whole family that you came from that had nothing. So now not only are you taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your family. So their debts, things that they've had, they're going to be looking at you and leaning on you a little bit harder, a little bit more. You got, family obligations. I mean, I'm just saying, like you've got so like your foundation wasn't. You're not starting at 250,000. You're starting still at a negative. You're starting still at a negative. Then adding your student loans on top of that, you're still starting at a deficit. Then you add your family on top of that, even more so. So that's why, I mean, I'm just thinking, I used to be an accountant, so I kind of just looking at it from a financial perspective. It's like, hold on, somebody else's where somebody else's base may have been, they started at at a middle class family. If you started at a lower class family, blue collar family, and now here you are making 250,000. Yeah, well, that's great for you on
Mhm.
your taxes and all that. That looks good, but your taxes don't really reflect the fact that you had to pay, pay mama's debt down, or they was gonna take the house, or you had to pay this thing down for daddy, or his car was gonna get towed or whatever. Like that
Yeah.
part doesn't get shown. So that's what I'm saying. Those things don't get shown, and so that I mean, because I was just thinking of it right now. I got a cousin who's a pharmacist, and coming out of medical school, she was making 125,000 with Walgreens. And so now she's probably up to somewhere like, maybe 200 or whatever. But she's living in an apartment, what I'm saying, an apartment building in Chicago. Not because, yeah, and she came from a decent, I guess you could say middle class family, but she still has a lot of debt that she's dealing with from her student loans, from her marriage, from her, her husband put her in all kinds of debt. And so she can't like live in some sort of, huge, great existence because she still has these other things she has to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So student loans may not be, I mean, it's still like beating over the head on top of everything else coming from real life.
Can I jump in on this too? Speaking as someone who has almost $300,000 in student loan debt still from law school. Yeah. I understand, Kiara, I totally understand your position. And
I guess my position was coming from the perspective of thinking that most ADOS only make between 20 and 50,000 a year.
Yeah.
So, but what Chris said also makes sense.
Yeah. What? Just a couple quick thoughts that kind of non sequiturs. The student loan debt issue it's really tricky because student debt in so many ways, kind of like medical debt, is something that it's not based on a specific asset. Like if you have a mortgage and you default on your mortgage, conceivably someone could literally, the bank could could repossess and evict you. Same with auto debt, right? Student loan debt, it's not like someone is going to come and repossess my brain, right? Of course, my credit score can go in the tank, and I might not ever get a loan again, but that doesn't, no one's coming to crack my skull open, thankfully, in this country, at least not right now. But the larger point of that is that, and I think this speaks to what Chris is saying, that even if you make a lot of money, and I do not, I never have, and I'll save the internal familial commentary between my wife and I about that. But even if you make a lot of money, relieving that debt allows someone to disengage from a capitalist machine, right? Like I went to law school because I wanted to understand the system and then come out and do good things in the world. And I came out with $150,000 plus in debt, and compounding interest in 2009 with no opportunity for a job. And so many people come out of, like Chris mentioned, medical school, pharmacological school, law school, even trade schools. You come out and with a mountain of debt, you are forced to plug into the system. You're forced to become a cog in the system because you have to pay it off. So I think it's really important to recognize that to some extent, relieving student debt is an attack at the capitalist system, because it will allow people to say, I want to do what I believe is right. I want to pursue something that I believe is just. I want to determine my professional life, my labor. I want to direct my labor in a way that I think is good for the world. Of course, not everybody looks at life that way or wants to do those things, and we have different ideas about what's good. But I think it's important to recognize that the student loan forgiveness conversation has that component to it. And I will say that also, and also say that I think it should be secondary. I don't think that student loan debt cancellation is an urgent issue right now, because I think that with an executive authority that says, just don't pay your debt, don't pay student debt, just freeze everything on student debt. Like I said, it's not based on an asset that can be repossessed. You can't be evicted from your own body. So anyway, that's it. Those are some non sequiturs, but those are my thoughts on the subject.
To that end, about kind of like the release from the capitalist society or capitalism. I actually had a plan, right? So it was a weird plan, and but it kind of involved, like providing freedom, from capitalism, what I'm saying, to an extent, for people. It was called the Robin Hood Project. Basically, I wanted to create a super PAC, and collect funds like crazy, to support whatever candidate put out whatever sort of content that they need, but at the smallest cost possible, so that way we could save the money and then use that money to, because after the political season is over, you can use the remaining money however you want. So then use that money to create a debt collection agency where you can buy up people's debt at like 10 cents on the dollar. So then we will go out, buy thousands of people's debt and never collect on it, thereby freeing them from that debt.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, it's great. I love that.
You know what I'm saying? So I actually talked to Jesse Jackson Jr. about doing something like that, but this was like right after he got out of prison. So he was like, I'm not trying to do anything right now, anything political. So, but yeah, that's something that's been on my mind to do for a while. Because I feel like, people are suffering from a mountain of debt, and people make decisions. I always talk about, how every day we talk about money. Like, we may not even say dollar or change or a number, you know, throughout the day, but every day we're talking about money because our decisions are based on capitalism. You know, how we move and how we maneuver. Do I have enough gas for this? Man, can I get from here to there? What am I eating today? You know, like everything, everything we're doing, you know, in some degree is based on that. I'll shut up. I've been talking too much.
I wholeheartedly agree with all that. You get real quick, it's a slippery slope in the sense when you start thinking about that, you go very quickly into a more abstract discussion of like money, you know, and how we interact with each other in the world. You know, is there a different way that we can transact with one another?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's the student loan debt, you know, for obvious reasons, for me is a very, very important issue. But I want to reiterate that having said all that, I absolutely believe that it should be secondary to a reparations discussion or to medical debt forgiveness or Medicare for all, like healthcare reform, like primarily because like I said, you default on your student loans and your credit goes to hell. But you know, that's you know, your credit score is just a nominal abstraction in a capitalist system. Like if you don't believe in capitalism, like I don't care about my credit score.
Yeah,
But I could
was
say
just about to say
that
like,
as
there are people who make it without credit. You know, they use
Pay
their
cash.
assets.
They pay cash.
Yeah, they don't base their survival off of building up a great credit. They don't want to, they don't need to. They either have enough wealth to where they don't need to survive off of credit, capitalism, or they just choose not to. It's frowned upon in America's debt-ridden society, but there are some of us out there who live debt-free. You know, our credit, me, I'm one of them. Like my credit is awful because I don't have any. I just
Wow.
live off of the money I make.
yeah, I don't. Yeah,
There's
Man.
this is a large discussion. I mean, it gets abstract
Yeah.
really fast.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
This might not be something we want to end on because
Right.
this will take us in a whole new direction.
Yeah.
well, we were talking about things that Black Americans need to let go of. So we can if anyone has any other examples, we can go into another one.
No.
I'm sorry, any examples of what? I was just showing.
Things misinformation, disinformation that Black Americans need to let go of. As far as moving into post election, I was going to say another one. I believe is that we need to we need to realize that the Biden administration is not what we think it's going to be. That's something else we're going to have to realize.
I'm sorry, I just saw this, and pardon me for being distracted. I just saw this notification of a talk going on with that Roland Martin is having today, discussing the Black economic agenda. Y'all know anything about this?
I don't follow him.
Don't either.
I don't.
Yeah, me either. He's my frat brother, and I'm like,
Anybody that's trying to manipulate the wealth of the baby boomers, to me, is a crook, because that's who has the wealth, and he's trying to get people to invest
Yes. Oh,
economically.
can
So
we?
you're trying to
Yes.
deceive the baby boomers, because that's where the wealth
Ah,
is. So I don't, you can keep rolling.
Speaking of which,
I mean, and he
did
was.
anyone see
It's
that
kind of
that
weird that he
Biden
was
post about?
anti-reparations and now he's pro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, here's the thing. So a lot of the, uh, I think there's two things happening with reparations right now. The
Mhm.
first is that there's been a lot of grift. People see it as a money grab, so they're gonna put on the mask of being for reparations to get what they can out of it.
Of
And
course.
then another thing that's happening is that I think that the other people are genuinely coming um, along to the beliefs that ADOS needed reparations. So they have a genuine um, interest in learning about it. So I think we're seeing both of those, and it's just so and some of the time we can't tell the difference, but I think so is Roland Martin aligned with reparations now? Who knows? I'm sure there's all sorts of evidence out there to either say he is or he's a grifter.
I
But I
think
do, but I definitely believe that with reparations, you know, the um it the movement is growing, so we are going to see a lot more um of it online in our personal relationships, and that's just where we are.
I agree. I think you're right. Um, yeah, and so and with that, we'll just have
Yeah,
to do
we
our
need
best
a spirit
to
of
do more.
discernment.
Yeah, do some more vetting.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, we need to get like the Black Panthers had when they had the 10 principles. We need to get like some, or I'm sorry, not the Black Panthers. Even better, like they did in The Walking Dead when they had the 3 questions.
Uh-huh.
They would ask
Yeah, we
people,
need that.
who have you killed? How many have you killed? Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Miss Al.
I'm sorry, I had Roland Martin confused with another person. And I'm sorry, that was not Roland Martin, that description of selling, trying to rip off the other people. He just puts out false
Oh,
information.
you were
So
talking
yeah, I
about
had him,
Umar.
huh?
You were talking about Umar Johnson.
No, that Watkins fella,
The
but
other
Umar ended up
one.
too now.
Oh, Dr. Watkins. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah,
boy,
Boyce Watkins.
yeah,
Him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's who,
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
had him, yeah, Roland Martin just puts out misinformation,
Yeah,
you
Boyce
know.
Watkins got some new teeth. You should check them out. Those are hilarious.
But yeah, so I definitely agree. We need a spirit of discernment when it comes to people who say they're for reparations. We need to be asking them, okay, if you say you're for reparations, what do you mean by that? Who do you think reparations needs to go to? What would you consider an adequate reparations agenda?
Hmm.
So I guess that is something else. It's no longer enough to just say, oh, to just say a person is for reparations. We need to know, what do you mean?
Right.
Because there's a lot of people who saying, you know, all sorts of people should get reparations. There should be all sorts of policies and reparations agendas, but
Hmm.
you know, we need to distinguish among who is ADOS and who is not.
Mm,
Hashtag ADOS.
absolutely. Absolutely. You're right. You're right. But yeah, I really think we need to come up with some level of like questioning or something like that. We're just asking,
Yeah.
like, you know, who, I don't know. But yeah, just to kind of to get that. And then from there on, we're like, okay, well, we expect, you to act and move in that capacity. And once you step outside of that realm, you we'll either be there to help readjust you, or we'll be there to oust you, one of the two. Like, I mean, because I think it should be that serious. Not like on some cult type, stuff or whatever. But I just mean in terms of, you know, like you can't just be coming in and saying like, yeah, I'm here for it. Yeah, what's the hustle? What are we doing? Like, no, that's not the move at all. Yeah, exactly. What we on?
Like all reparations. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm for it. You
yeah.
know,
I'm
Black
for the money.
Power.
I'm for the right. I'm for the money. Who we preparing for? Who we giving money to? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So I think this might be a good place to end for the day. If unless anyone has anything else they wanted to add.
No,
Well, all right.
excellent meeting.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. Can I got one quick comment.
Mm-hmm.
I want there to be an exception to the discussion about celebrities, not having discernment around celebrities, and that exception should be Regina King. Because Chris, I watched
Yeah, The
Watchmen this
Watchmen.
week.
Yeah.
Oh
check it
my
out,
God, that was
Yeah.
so phenomenal. She's so great. That whole show was
man.
great.
Yeah.
The imagery and all the like the smaller hidden stories and the
Yeah.
underlying stories that are being told.
Yeah,
That stuff was it was killer. Did you go
Yeah.
get through the whole series, or where are you?
yeah. I got through it this
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
Yeah,
But they didn't renew it, correct?
No, it wasn't to be a full series to go on to be another. It was just to be a one-off,
Wow.
to kind of
Yeah.
continue the story. Because if you know the storyline from the original Watchmen, it was like I think it was only out for a year,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it just
The
created this
comic
cult
book
following. Yeah, the comic
Yeah.
book was only out for
Yeah.
a year,
or the
year and a half,
graphic
something like
novel
that.
series. I mean.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was out for a short amount of time, made waves, had a cult following.
Yeah. I saw the
They did-
movie.
Yeah.
I don't have
Movie's a little-
HBO.
The movie's a little bit different than what
Yeah.
than the book, and I like that I should say the graphic novels, and I'm glad that the series kind of was going off the graphic novels versus
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
movie.
I might have to read the novel.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
dope.
it's good.
Regina King is.
She's terrific.
Yeah.
She's great. She was
Yeah,
great
she's
in
phenomenal.
The Leftovers too, which is an HBO show from a few years back. If anybody cares, she was really great in that show
The
too.
Leftover.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of a weird show, but she's not a main character. She's a kind of a secondary character. I mean, I say that, but yeah, she's great. But Watchmen was great. Like
Mm-hmm.
she was so phenomenal in that. And I do think that, I mean, there's a lot to talk about in that show. I mean, I did not realize that it was going to be centered on the Tulsa Black Wall Street massacre.
Mm-hmm.
It was really just
Well,
terrific.
should we start off there next week? Maybe
Yeah.
we can talk about pop culture references to ADOS life and how they
Yeah.
affect us,
Yeah,
how they
that'd be
shape the
great.
culture,
Yes.
That'd be
Excellent.
how they
great.
shape our narrative.
Yeah.
All
That'd
right,
be
we'll
great.
start that next week.
Yeah.
Pop
Check that
culture.
out.
Repeat that topic again, please.
Pop
Pop
culture references to ADOS life and how it affects our narratives.
Yeah, because
Yeah, that's
and
good.
actually to that
That's
end,
excellent.
and I mean I remember this.
Save it for next
the
week.
time. No, I was just gonna say, for Brian to check it out. There was like a huge amount of backlash after that first episode.
Yeah.
Because basically like if you can Google what is it? I think Watchmen thinks what is it? Watchmen thinks people are or white people are racist or something like that. I think that was what it was, because like there was a huge amount of people who had never even heard about the Tulsa massacre.
Yeah.
And so they were like, "Oh, you're just making up this thing. Oh, you're just making up a whole new riot. How you dare you? What is this? Are you
Oh
just
my
trying to
God.
make it seem like we just these evil people?"
Yeah.
I'm like, do y'all know the history?
Yeah.
I mean, the summer of 1919. You've
Right.
never read about that?
Hey, Chicago riot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, there were multiple riots in multiple cities that year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hot summer. You're right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, well, so we'll start there next week.
Sounds good.
Sweet.
Well, we are out of here for the day. Thank you, Miss Al, Kristen, Brian, for joining in with ADOSKC today. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kiara.
Peace.
Bye.